paying money. I was broke, to be honest.
Hey, let's say you don't have any common, like it doesn't come up like right off the gate. You can steer the conversation that way. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I read this book that was about this. What are your thoughts about that?
What's your opinion on the notion that AI is going to be taking the jobs of radiologists?
All right, welcome to our audience. This is the MedAngle's It's a Match series, and this is the specialty series for radiology. My name is Dr. Mohammad Azib. I'm the founder, CEO, and CTO of MedAngle, one of the world's largest medical education platforms when it comes to the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. We have over 80,000 doctors and student doctors on the platform, with now more than 100 million questions solved on the platform. And the MedAngle It's a Match series has been really successful last year, and this year, as we expand it, we're now bringing you more and more great content from seasoned individuals who have gone through the daunting process of matching. And this particular series is about radiology. So I'm going to quickly turn over to my co-host, Shamas, and then we'll be introducing our guests as well. So Shamas, over to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Shamaz Ghazenfar. I'm from the Advanced Projects Division here at MedAngle. I'm a final year student and a radiology aspirant myself. So I'm super excited to have these special guests with us here today. Dr. Azib, if you can please carry on with the introductions.
Of course. So first, I'll ask Dr. Hamza Abad to go first and introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Hamza. I'm a graduate of 2021 from Al Khan University, and I'm mastered into diagnostic radiology at Johns Hopkins starting 2025.
Very awesome. Great. Next, Dr. Syed Naseem Shah to introduce himself, please.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Naseem Shah, graduate of 2021 from LCMD, which is affiliated to Jinnah. Was kind of surprised working alone, wasn't having much mentorship and everything for studying for steps and everything, because of those small colleges, you are struggling with those things. We don't have much more alumni. Yep, and matched at University of Minnesota in radiation oncology, and working at Mayo as well in research as a research fellow.
Absolutely outstanding. Congratulations to both of you on your success as well. We're very proud of you. And obviously, you guys have worked very hard for where you've gotten. So congratulations once again. So let's kick things off. I'll start with Dr. Shah. So my first question for you is, I know in your case you're doing radiation oncology, but why this field? Like, why this specialty? Let's start with that question.
So I would answer, why not? Why not the specialty? Why not we as an MGs, why we are just thinking of internal medicine? Why we are just thinking of psychiatry? Why only pediatrics? These are very cool specialties, very good lifestyle. You are working maximum 40s in 40s hour, 40 to 50 maximum, very good salary. The rest, like you don't have much calls. Like in the whole year, you have just 2 weeks of call. Like you're not doing those crazy shifts and all that. And the second thing is, from my experience, I explored the department. I did some shadowing here at Mayo, and I found a great mentorship. When I look to the people, how happy they are. To me, it's not only like I love doing medicine. I love working in helping patients. But if I'm not happy, how I'm going to help them? So to me, work-life balance matters. That's why I explored the department. I looked at how cool the specialty is, how good they are in technology, how advanced they are in technology, the AI and all those proton therapy, which one machine is like millions of dollars. Like just imagine from the building that where I'm working, they spend $188 million on just one building. So you can imagine from that how cool the specialty is, how much impact that will have on the cancer patient. So that was the reason. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Dr. Abad, Hamza, go ahead.
Yeah, so radiology it was like a multitude of things. So I was a techie from the start. So, I was tinkering with the computers and stuff like that. So one day I was tinkering with something and it got stuck at a scan. And my consultant at that point looked at it. He's like, "Oh, are you trying to read that?" And no, I wasn't. As a med school, you say, "Well, yeah, sure." So he taught me, and that's how I actually, started getting a love for it. There's day to day, there's a lot of advantages. Instead of like on a medicine round, you're looking at one patient, then following them for 3-4 days. I have to look at a scan maybe for like 20-30 minutes and then move on to the next case. So there's always like a flow. And once you enter that flow state, you're getting stuff done and you feel instant gratification in this world. I mean, I hate saying that you should look for instant gratification, but it has more instant gratification than normal. And then it's there's so much amazing technology coming out with artificial intelligence. I worked with some of that, and you think in most specialties there's bread and butter. Like you're going to be seeing, like for example, pulmonology day in day out, you're going to be seeing asthma or COPD exacerbations or things like that. But in radiology, especially when you're going into the residency itself, you're going to be seeing so many different types of scans. Each scan is going to be different. Even though the indication is going to be the same, you could say, oh, it's chest pain, but there's like a million different things that you could pick up on. And also, I like the idea of being like a central thing. Like every patient that's going to come in is going to have some sort of scan done on them, and you play an integral role. Like if during call, if you see something it needs immediate surgical intervention, you're the person who's going to be ultimately making that call. So it's all very cool to me, the idea of being, the central hub of the hospital.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that so for audiences watching, I think both Dr. Shah and Dr. Bad touched on two really cool things. Is that obviously the bulk of the programming and the content that people see on YouTube and social media is about, internal medicine, pediatrics, family medicine, stuff like that. But I think what's cool here is that I think oftentimes, because I've hosted a bunch of our previous episodes as well, and oftentimes our previous esteemed guests talked about, the calls and, the hustle and bustle and the grind to get in and stuff like that. But I think here, both of you had really unique and really interesting insights, which I haven't really heard IMGs talk about in particular, with Dr. Shah talking about, the lifestyle and that. And really, I love the fact that Dr. Shah, you said that, if I'm not happy myself, how can I be my best with patients, right? I think that's a very important thing that we often forget about, and because we're so caught up in that, that end kind of goal or the end journey being accomplished in a sense, right? So I think that's a very good point that you mentioned. I think all of us that are watching should be keeping in mind as well. So kudos to you for bringing that point up. And regarding what Hamza said, being a techie, well, I see you. That's great. Awesome. Me too. I think a lot of us here at MedAngle are techies as well. But I think what you said about as well is that you said one thing that really struck me is that every patient that comes in, for the most part, they're going to have some sort of imaging modality being conducted, right? Whether it's an X-ray, CT, PET, whatever it is, MRI. You're there in all those different things, right? And you brought up the idea of kind of like diversity or variety of interesting things, because it's for some specialties you're following a patient for days, weeks, etc. like that. But here it's like, hey, you're right, yeah, 20-30 minutes, as you said, we move on, right? There's no time to kind of dwell on it, but like you see things and there's so much to see. So two really interesting points for the audience watching that, you talk about lifestyle here, you can talk about working hours, you can talk about some of the things that drew Dr. Shah and Dr. Abad to this particular field. So thank you for that. One more question before I turn over to Shamas for the next segment, but I guess the next question for you, I'm gonna start with Hamza, is let's quickly touch upon some of the statistics or numbers for the audience watching, right? Because of course, radiation, this is not exactly the most common field to go into, radiology. So let's talk about some of the stats, numbers, scores, kind of give us a quick overview of that for those watching. So Hamza, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, first of all, I like to say like every single specialty, whichever one you're interested in, try to go online and look at the NRMP data that's officially published by the Match agency, and they usually tell you like things about the step scores and the publications and things in that nature. So I'll go over like some of the mean average stuff that I've seen out there from people who matched. We're looking at like step scores. Well, step 1 isn't scored anymore. It was back in my day. It was like around 250s, and step 2's around the same. And when it comes to publications, I like to think, so publications, in terms of number, I think they're around 10. I applied with around 10. And I think, yeah, so the number of spots per program, there are like 200 programs. Each place has around 4 to 10 spots, so that it is relatively competitive, but there's an equal amount of lower amount of applicants. So essentially the odds kind of even out. And so those are like kind of the numbers that you're looking at. One advice from me would be when you look at people who have a lot of publications, it's not just that they have a lot of publications, It's the fact that they made connections using doing research with those people along the way. So you might get daunted looking at somebody who has like 50, 60 plus publications, but really, like Dr. Shah mentioned, it's about the mentorship that you gain along the way. So like maybe it's just one or two mentors that are pushing you. So don't get too daunted, even with the scores, even they're relatively high, even if the publication numbers that seem relatively high. It's about making sure that you have enough to justify your spot. Obviously, nobody's gonna obviously program directors are gonna look down on people who have lower than average scores. But if you have average scores, I think it's very much doable, regardless of the year that you're looking at. And nowadays, with some of the news that's been coming out about IMG scores, it's kind of up in the air. So you can take advantage of the fact that you don't know, program directors really don't know what a good IMG score looks like.
It's a very good point. Yeah, thank you. Dr. Shah, anything you want to add to that? I know Hamza talked about some of the more cursory stuff, but anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with the with Hamza what he said, and he's 100% right. But I have some a bit different opinion on on things, looking to the things. Sometimes we are looking to the data. Like if I look to the radiation oncology data, this year it only 19 IMGs match into radiation oncology, which if you look like overall like total positions are 170 something, but we are looking to the IMG status, and we don't know that how many IMGs apply to that specialty. If none apply to that, how would we know that if this is IMG friendly or not, right? So radiation oncology, like everyone would tell you, oh, don't apply, it's not IMG friendly, and no one matched, no one ever applied to it. So that's what, like, but I personally have an opinion. If you like a specialty, reach out to mentors, do a shadowing in that department, ask for mentorship. Like the way my journey started, I was in hemonc. I was doing research in hemonc, thinking the same IMG thinking that, oh, I'm going to apply for internal medicine. If there is some possibility, I'll pursue MedAngle or something. It was always oncology for me, but it was just a single email. I met one of my friend. He's a physics resident here at Mayo. I told him that, hey man, I'm interested in AI and technology. Who do you think will be the right person to reach out? He said, oh yeah, reach out to our chair. She's a great, she will help you. I reached out to her. She said, she gave me all the mentor. She said, oh yeah, it's a very good time to apply for radiation oncology. You have a good CV. I don't have a good CV. My scores are average scores, 240s, 250s in step 1 and step 2. And I just started to research at Mayo. Like I don't barely have 4 or 5 published papers. And then I did shadowing. I met the program director. She was saying the same thing to me, that it's a good time to apply. So it's all up to you. So the point is, do your own research. If you like a specialty, do some shadowing in that specialty. Meet the mentors who are in that specialty. If they give you a green signal that, yeah, this is the right time to apply, your application is competitive, I think you should not hesitate and give your best shot. The rest is, you never know. A lot of people don't match it, even in internal medicine or pediatrics. So don't ignore a specialty just thinking, oh, it's not IMG friendly, and because IMG never applied to those specialties.
Some really good insights there, Dr. Shah. I think a point of motivation for the audience as well is that, hey, give it a shot. You never know, right? At the end of the day, I think it's a good point that you brought up as well, is that, a lot of people talk about things that aren't IMG friendly, and we all kind of know what those are. But in this case, it's that, well, people might not even be aware that it's a possibility, or that, the opportunity is actually out there and it's yours for the taking potentially, right? So I think that's a very good point that you brought up. So next, I'll turn to Shamas to kind of transition to our next segment now that we kind of got a good introduction. So thank you for that. Shamas, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Ibad, and thank you, Dr. Shah. That was a really great overview. So moving on, let's talk about someone aspiring to go into the field of radiology or radiation oncology. Let's say they're in their 4th or their final year of medical school. How can they build a really radiology-oriented CV? And I know you guys touched on this a little bit earlier, like you want to do research, obviously, you want to do rotations, but what are the distinct, unique things about, radiology or radiation oncology that these students should really have in mind? So Dr. Ibad, if we can have your thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll give you some perspective. Like, we're from the batch of 2021, Dr. Shah and I. when we were in third or fourth year, it was COVID, and for me, I wasn't able to secure any. Well, I was able to secure one rotation, right? And it was a virtual rotation. And when I graduated, I had zero research. So, and I started thinking about radiology around mid fourth year, and I was just really panicking, like, what should I do? What should I do, right? I'll tell you one thing. And when I applied for radiology, the one rotation I did get, I forgot to put it in my application. I pressed send, and I was like, oh no, I forgot to do that. If my mentor heard that, he would absolutely scream at me. But that didn't end up mattering that much. But in terms of when it comes to the research opportunity, what I really ask like fourth or fifth year students to do is really early on start emailing, and not just email through maybe some graduates like some alumni that you have, but try also cold emailing, and really make sure that you really want to make a difference in that research field. So radiology is actually very research heavy. When you're thinking about the type of place that you want to end up at, you between the research and the rotations, you have to think about two things. So to help you decide whether you want to cold email for research or rotations. First thing is if you want to end up working at an academic place, which means eventually if you want to be hired, you want these places really cultivate like a culture of you need to publish, you need to push the boundaries of the field. That's sort of something that I like. That's why I applied to postdoc fields. But if you're somebody who likes just the clinical practice day in, day out of it, and you're thinking of maybe joining a private practice group or a small community program, then that's something that you might want to cold email for rotations for. And the thing you should do definitely is whatever specialty or whoever you're emailing, research them. Take a day or two. If you write a quality email, people are going to respond rather than sending the same template email out to a million people. I liked the idea of MSK radiology, so I tried emailing people first and foremost for MSK radiology. And whenever I looked up their research, I'd be like, hey, this is one project that I think is really cool. It's something that I've thought about since forever. These are my skills, and this is how I'm going to do. And the other thing is, when I applied for postdoc research, one of my biggest anxieties was the fact that I only had one publication. It was a review article. It wasn't even like an original research where, I did statistical analysis. So how can you remedy that if you think you're too late? What I did was, actually I had COVID, they put me in quarantine, and I only had access to my computer. What I did was I started learning programming languages. So I learned MATLAB and Python because I knew that those were two things that are going to help me with image segmentation and artificial intelligence developing. So, and then I put those on my CV. I said, hey, I learned this from, I think it was Coursera. I learned this from Coursera. Whether or not you pay the money to actually get the certification, it's like whatever. But let's say you do pay, you can put that on. It'll give you a link in your CV that they can look up like, hey, this guy has done this. If you show the genuine interest, there are people out there who will take the chance on you and even give you some time to as like a learning experience. Like the first 4 or 5 months over here, I was given a little bit more leeway about how I want to approach projects. So that's how I would go for it. I wouldn't put myself like, hey, I'm stuck. I didn't get publications. I didn't get rotations. What should I do now? Just take the steps that you can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Ibad. Dr. Shah, if there's anything you would like to add.
Yeah, Dr. Ibad touched very key points here. I don't want to aid much into it. Simple. I like simple strategies of exploring. I think third year or fourth year would be too early to decide that you want to go on this specialty. I would give a chance to other specialties as well to explore other areas, because I don't want myself to be complaining a lot after 20 years that why I did this specialty and all that. I want to be happy. So it's I think it is too early to decide that this is what I want. I would recommend explore neurosurgery, explore general surgery, explore pediatrics, explore physical medicine and rehabilitation if you have access. Mostly in my college I did not had a radiation oncology. Luckily, at the last moment I got exposure and I like the specialty. So explore. And the second thing, once you decide, that, yeah, this is the specialty that I want to do, I think from that point it's easy. It's not a big deal. Once you are dedicated that, yeah, I want to pursue radiology, I want to pursue general surgery. This year IMG's match in general surgery, IMG's match in plastic surgery and other specialties, a very cool specialty. So once you decide, then the other, there is the your approach to it. It depends on person. Like for me, it would be like, I would 100% agree with with Hamza. Just reach out to people, find a mentor, and just go like whatever he is telling you. He is expert in the field. He will guide you properly. Then the rest is, once you get interviewed, the rest is your skills, your interviews, how you're going to impress them. So the point is, explore the department. Well, if you like radiology, do shadowing in radiology in your med school. If you like, if you are from a prestigious program in Pakistan. I was not. I didn't have access to radiation oncology. So I think if there are programs who has radiation oncology in Pakistan, so you can get some exposure from there and decide. Like once you decide, then it is easy.
Right, awesome. So it looks like I'm seeing a common theme here for anyone in the audience. It looks like we have to keep our options open and also be extremely resourceful whenever we can. So thank you so much. I think that's really amazing advice. And just one more question before I switch over to my co-host, Dr. Azib. Were there any specific blockers that you guys think came into play and how we can overcome them during the match process? So was there anything that you guys believe that was hindering your CV? Dr. Ibad, I believe you mentioned that you only had one publication at the time, and same with you, Dr. Shah. I believe you said that you started research when you went to Mayo. So along those lines, were there other blockers that you all faced during the process of trying to match?
I think there's a lot of systematic issues that you also need to take care of. So I think one of the big ones is making sure that your CV is not too over specialized. I felt like there were some programs that maybe overlooked me because I had, in their eyes, too many publications, or things like that, right? And then also there's this for radiology this year around, there was a signaling process. I'm pretty sure like a lot of the people in the audience would know about the signaling process, but one of the things that I realized was it was acting sort of like a soft cap. So, for example, if you didn't signal a program, then you're not going to get an interview from them, especially if it's like a prestigious program. So a way to overcome that, in my opinion, was to make sure that you have like a couple of dream programs, but then you also have a couple of programs that you have a realistic shot at, and some places that you are comfortable going and you know that you might 100% have an in at. Maybe it's like the place where your mentor works, or a mentor's friend, or maybe did a rotation over there. You made a really good impression on the program director, even though it's not one of your top programs. So make sure that you use your signals wisely. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, awesome. And Dr. Shah, if there's anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I don't know what to call it. Luckily or unfortunately, for radiation oncology there was no signals. So yeah, so I had to apply to all the specialties, the areas, and I agree with Hamza here. Your CV should not look over specialized. My CV was more towards oncology. So I did apply to some internal medicine programs because for the safe side, no one is sure if you're applying to advanced specialties. It's not easy. You should have a plan B. So I applied for internal medicine, but please don't tell to the programs. I did not tell them that I applied for internal medicine. So for that, my CV was, I started my research in Heme Onc. It was all like my few publication was in Heme Onc. Then I started in Red Onc. All the publications were in Red Onc, right? So it is always oncology. I have all my CV. So when I applied to some community programs for the Plan B, I did not get interview. But then I was thinking like, what could be the reason? Then I came to the conclusion, yeah, this is the community programs. They are looking for hospitalists. They are not looking for oncologists, right? If I'm showing my CV that, yeah, my CV is I'm interested in oncology, they're saying, man, we are not looking for oncologists. we need hospitalists. So make sure if you're certain that, yeah, I want to apply for this specialty, then work on the on CV and have a clear vision that, yeah, if it didn't work out, trust Allah, inshallah it will work out next time. But have faith and just work on the same specialty. It's not, there is no such thing that you will not match in a competitive specialty. You will easily match. It's all up to you. It's all up to your approach. So that's all I can add.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point to not over specialize. I think that's something very unique we don't get to hear as often. So
Yeah.
Dr. Azib, if you can take over for the next
Yeah,
section.
I want to add to, so this for the audience watching, I think this is a really good takeaway point. This is one of those like golden nuggets of wisdom that you can take away, is that, you know, sometimes when you kind of over-index or rather over specialize, you know, it might be actually detrimental in certain cases. So I think oftentimes people are so caught up and they forget to take kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, because you're so, you know, embedded in the finer details. You kind of forget like what the actual approach should be for this thing or this path or this program or whatnot. So I think that's a really, really good point about Dr. Shah. So thank you for that. So now we're going to kind of change gears, shift gears, and talk about the actual match itself. So this time we'll start with Dr. Shah. So tell us kind of a bit about like what match season was like for you. So I guess we can touch upon kind of applying and then the interviews. So we'll start with these two things first. So to tell us about what the match cycle was like for you with respect to applying and the interviews.
For me, like I don't know, for some reason I got earlier or a very good mentorship. I'm so grateful for that. And where they were looking to I met, so sometimes we restrict ourselves to not participating in social events and all that. So in one event we had at Mio of the Iranian merge, where Iranian people celebrate their new year called Nowruz. So I just participate. I like those things. I like food and everything. So I just went. They're my good friends. So I went, and there I met one guy. He did his radiology resident. He's American, but his parents are from Iran. I met him there. He did his residency from MIT or somewhere, from a very prestigious. He went to a very prestigious program, and he's a good friend of mine now. So I met him. I just asked him that the residency season is coming. If you can look to my applications, I say, oh yeah, I would love to look into those things. So this guy, like, he added my personal statement in my application like at least 10 times. Every time I will send him application, and he would edit that and he will send it back to me, personal statement and everything. Of course, as an IMGs, we are not perfect in those things. We are always struggling with those, writing the right personal statement, and then paying money. I was broke, to be honest. I did not have money to pay for my observership, or to pay. I did not pay a single penny to anyone for my observership or for my personal statement or for anything. People are paying money for that, unluckily. Then I applied to RedOnc, and luckily I got in good interviews. Like, it was almost 14 interviews, but 15 position for RedOnc. And then I think I had 6 interviews for prelim, which include, one was transitional year, one was medicine prelim, I think 4 was surgery prelim. And then few program had, like, so for advanced specialties, like Hamza would agree with me, you should have both like prelim as well as categorical advanced. So but luckily I match in a program where they have their own transitional year.
Okay, so that's a bit about Dr. Shah's kind of applying an interview process. And we're going to touch a bit more on the details of this in a bit, but I want to hear from Hamza first. So Hamza, tell the audience a bit about your application process and your interview process as well.
So I'm really excited to talk about the interviews, but not that excited to talk about the application. So I'll tell you why. So we'll start with the application, right? You think you are going to put in a lot of effort for your personal statement. You're going to ask a lot of people for your LORs, and I think like a dean's letter, MSPE. But once you have those things in your hand, you'll be very surprised at how underwhelming it is to put it on the system and just press enter. And you will be very paranoid. You will keep looking about whether or not you assign the right LORs to the right programs, especially if you're applying to advanced specialty. So for example, for my prelim programs, I had to make sure that I put in at least one internal medicine letter in there. And you don't have to convince them that you're going to do internal medicine. The perspective you should have is, I'm going to into radiology, but I want to learn as much of internal medicine as I can so that in the future I will be able to facilitate your guys' role by acting as a good radiologist and answering you in a timely manner or answering your clinical question. So make sure, like, yeah, you don't have to lie to them. And in the personal statement, put in your hobbies, put in things that tie into why you love the specialty. And that's the reason why I really love talking about my interviews. I got 9 interviews for radiology from really, really good places. And they were all really chill people. Even like the top programs to like places that you might not end up want to go to. If there are people who want to talk to you about anything, I think usually per interview spot, I got like one why radiology question, and then the rest of it was talking about my personal statement, my hobbies. So I'm a big reader. I don't even read like, really complex topics. I read like novels, like there's Lord of the Rings kind of stuff. And they love talking about that. And they love talking about video games. And so just be yourself and be personable, because at the end of the day in radiology, they want somebody they can spend 8-9 hours in a row just chatting while they're looking through cases. And that's what my experience was, like, shadowing a little bit during my postdoc. These people want to talk about, I don't know, current events or things like that while also looking at the scan, and say, because that's just business. So they want somebody that they can that they see is a good fit for your family. So interviews in that regard are good, are amazing experiences, but also don't get really too cautious about when or why you're not getting interviews. So for the first couple of months, I only had 2 interviews in, and then they started trickling in. The thing is, if you go on to so radiology has this Discord channel. If you don't know what Discord, if the people in the audience don't know what Discord is, it's basically like a chat room. You don't really have to disclose your identity. What you can do is, like, over there, people will tell you like, okay, so I got this interview from this place, which means that a lot of these programs, they send out interviews in waves. So some programs send out all their interviews at once at the beginning of the season. Some people send out, maybe like 100 interviews now, and then like a third of the interviews a little bit later. So don't panic, and just look at the historical record of whether or not the program that you signaled maybe or were interested in still has a chance of sending out more invites. As an IMG, you are going to be on a lower rung, so they're probably going to be interviewing their AMGs before they're going to be interviewing your IMGs. So don't panic in that regard.
Some really good insights here. So now let's kind of talk. So we talked about the application process and the interviews process. I do want to talk about interviews a bit more, but we'll come back. We'll circle back to that. I want to talk about the actual process of program searching. So actually the discovery and the finding of said programs. So Dr. Shah, like tell us about your approach and kind of how you went through this process of, actually finding the programs in the first place.
It's very funny. Me and my friend, he's a good friend of mine from Kenya. We started like earlier on to look for the programs to apply those IMG friendly programs, and this poor guy, his year of graduation was more than 5 years or more than 3 years. I'm not forgetting that. So we were looking to every program. This program offer visa, H1J1 visa, and year of graduation. What are they looking for? And spend hours and hours, weeks into that, like finding 200 programs or 150 programs for internal medicine to apply to them. And then I was also applying for radiation oncology. So it was very easy for me to apply to radiation oncology because there are total like 80 programs. And I just filter out those who are sponsoring visa. There were almost like 70 programs or something, and I applied to all of them. So it was very easy, but it is very tricky for internal medicine, where you have to look to the visa status, to the IMG state, and most of the time the statistics are not accurate on the Residency Explorer and those websites. So for me, I wasted a lot of time on internal medicine, but I didn't get any interview from internal medicine. As I told you, all my application was on over specialized. So I don't know. I don't think I would be the right person to tell you those to answer this question. Yeah. But this was my approach, and it did not work out for me.
I understand. I think that's totally fair, because like you said, like there is a limited number of things that you can kind of go into, and then you found the ones that worked and the ones you couldn't, obviously didn't make sense. So that's a pretty straightforward approach. I think that the nature of this kind of a bit more advanced kind of, the funnel is much smaller, right? Yeah. Hamza, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, same thing. Diagnostic radiology only has like 200 programs, so you're not looking at that many programs. And of those programs, I applied to like 120 of them. And there's a couple of factors. You look at the amount of money that you have. You look at geographical preferences. So my family was in Canada, so is in Canada. So I did put my geographical preferences in the Northeast region. But let's say you don't have either of those constraints. What you're really looking for is the type of place that you want to end up at. Maybe you want to rank the academic programs, so you make sure that you have like the vast majority of academic programs and university programs applied to beforehand. And then the same thing if they sponsor a visa or not. And one thing that will really help you is look at the trends. So let's say 5 years ago they hired like five IMGs, and then like the next 4 or 5 years they didn't hire any IMGs. Then maybe this year around they are looking to maybe get more IMGs or things like that. Or like there's some programs that historically take 1 or 2 IMGs every year. So those are places that you want to look at. And after you apply to your programs, make sure that you also send those particular places like a letter of interest, like, hey, this is the reason why I love your program. Like maybe this program has a really good informatics fellowship, or this program has a really good, like, it allows you to do global radiology, things like that. So make sure after you search programs, make sure that they also have like places where you're interested in, other sub programs like I talked about that you're interested in, and then you can even put those in your letters of interest moving forward.
All right. So now there's one part that I want to kind of switch to, and this is something that comes up a lot. So the audience always asks this question. This happened a lot last year. This happens generally speaking when it comes to the match process, and that is this concept of networking. I think both of you mentioned that you guys had good mentors. Dr. Shah particularly mentioned, the fact that you had such strong mentorship from a kind of early stage. So a lot of the students, and especially those who are a bit more junior in medical school careers, maybe they're now in third year, they're thinking about the future. How do you actually start networking? Because everyone says networking, but not a lot of people don't figure it out until much later what it actually means, right? Some people think it's like it's going to conferences, making friendships, just going on LinkedIn, hitting connect. So a lot of people take networking as a very kind of abstract or kind of a diffuse topic. So I'll start with Dr. Shah. What was your approach to networking? What advice would you give to students about this kind of idea of networking? I think in two parts: A, generally speaking about networking, and B, probably the most talk about this is that networking with respect to radiology or and radonc in this case. So if you could take this question, Dr. Shah.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know. Everyone has a different approach to their journey. My approach was simple. I didn't start earlier in my career reaching out to people. Yeah, that was like when I gave my step 1 exam. I told, as I said, like I'm from LCMD, a small college. I did not had any alumni to reach out to them or to connect people on LinkedIn or all that. So that was not for me from the first day. So when I gave my step 1 in December 2021, I think, yeah, I believe December 2021, and I started in January, like took a month off and started for preparing for step 2 in January. So I was going to a library during the day, and at night, or if I have some time at night, I would start emailing people. Like I was just like it was just a coincidence for me. I watched a video on YouTube. They were saying how to find a research position in the US, right? So I found that someone said, oh, if you want to do research at Mayo, this is how you should do. Search in Google Mayo research faculty. There are thousands of people. Start emailing them. I did the same. Like during the day I was studying, I was working or studying, and at night when I'm exhausted, I can't study. I would just go home and just create a simple email, simple resume. Just I'm graduate of this year, or I'm gave my step 1. I'm preparing to give step 2, and I'm looking for a research mentorship or for a research position. After sending 700 emails, I got one response. Let's say, oh yeah, we are looking for someone, but it will be unpaid position. We don't have funds for it. So my plan A, you should always have plan B. My plan A was give my step 1 in December. I will give my step 2 before August or March or July, and then I would go to give my OET and go to the US for a month or 2 or 3, do electives and apply to internal medicine. But plan B, if this is not working, what you gonna do? If this plan A did not work out, what you gonna do? You should have plan B. So luckily, I don't know what to call it, luckily or unluckily, my diploma was not verified from the ECFMG, and I did not get the permit to give my exam before August. I got my permit in September, so I gave my exam in September 15 in step 2. So then I had luckily I had plan B. So I joined from September 18th. I joined Mayo Clinic research, and that was my approach. Then from that the mentorship started. Did 1 year research, almost like after 6 months. I had a great mentorship from that department. Then after 6 months, I decided that now I want a paid position. I can't live. I can't survive unpaid, because match season is coming. I need at least $8,000 to $10,000 for the match season. I want to give my OET. I was not done with OET. And so then I reach out to people for observership here at Mayo. So one thing I would highly recommend to student, which is some people can say it is illegal, but when it comes to your financial issues, nothing is illegal. That if you're working in a program that is where you're working as a volunteer, like research trainee at Mayo, which is unpaid job. In unpaid job, try to reach out to as many people as possible. Try to get the best mentorship. Try to get, like, if some people are very some people are happy to work with you. Some people will give you that, yeah, come shadow with me for a week, right? You can get LOR from there for free. It will be a good LOR, it will be a good from a good program, it will add something to your resume. Yeah, if you have money, if you're financially stable, you can, if you want to pay like $1,000 or $2,000 to a university program, go for it. Very good idea. But if it was not for me, it was not so. So then I started reaching out to people, and luckily I ended up in finding a research fellow position in radiation oncology. And that's where, like, so I got both mentorship from HemOnc as well as from RedOnc. In the meantime, I was also learning US healthcare system, which is like, I don't want to take it long time, it's getting longer. So then it's also called National Center for Healthcare Leadership. These are small things where I was learning. I got one mentor from there too, where it's a free program. You can just sign up for it, and you will get a mentor who is, so my mentor is the executive director of University of Illinois. So he was mentoring me, telling me how the US healthcare system works. And the same way I signed up for the Toastmaster International. I did not come from a very prestigious like schooling system where I have a very good language or interview skills. So I started those things earlier on. So for 1 year, I'm still a member of Toastmaster International, where they are teaching you how to be a good leader, how to speak, how to talk in the interviews and all of that. So this was my whole 1 year journey, where I got mentorship from all the department, from HemOnc, from RedOnc, from healthcare system, from leadership skills, that aid a little bit to everything, and it worked out.
I really admire like the candidness and the frankness they just displayed to the audience, and I think that's really inspiring because not everybody comes from a place that's full of privilege, right? So if you do, that's fine, that's all well and good, but not everyone has that background or backing to say. So I think like the way Dr. Syed talked about how you found opportunities, you kind of made things happen, you reached out, you talked to people, you got things done. I think that's a very, very good thing to take away for people who are thinking about this journey, this process. Obviously, if you're watching this, you probably are, but I think that's just a very it's testament to your resilience and your kind of resourcefulness that I think helped you get so far and achieve this level of success. And I think that's a really inspiring takeaway point for the audience, is that if you want to make things happen, what's stopping you, right? And the answer is yourself, right? Nothing else really, in most cases. So now I want to talk to Hamza about kind of, I know talked about this, but like Hamza, like what's your take on this? What was it like for you? If you kind of grace us with your wisdom as well, that'd be really good.
So I really agree with everything that Dr. Shah said about reaching out, making sure that you're always doing something. I think the one thing I will say is familiarize yourself with whenever you reach out with etiquette, and also don't seem overeager. There are really big names in the industry or in the field. They have a million people emailing them, right? And they know when a person is being too overeager. So just try to be honest. Whenever you make conversation with people, make it an earnest conversation. Whether you're talking about, football or basketball or whatever, make sure that you're actually interested in that topic and not saying it just so you can be a yes man so they can give you a fellowship option, right? Especially at conferences. Conferences are there for these people to relax while displaying some research, but they're usually mingling within themselves. You'll usually end up with another med student who's also looking to you're wandering around looking for like consultants to talk to, right?
Right.
So whenever you get those chances, be very genuine. Say like, hey, you know what, I'm working like this. I really appreciate all the stuff that you're doing. And just move on. If they're open to it, they'll ask you. So whatever, and also whenever you're reaching out via email, Dr. Shah can talk about this. Make sure that and I talked about this a little bit earlier. Make sure it's personalized. Make sure that you know the person whose research you're really interested in, because they know that like a lot of people send out template emails. There are a lot of people who send out like "Hello, doctor" without even like adding their person's last name.
Right.
So know the etiquette, know what you're getting into, and things will happen. Just seem like a genuine person, seem like a genuine, like personable person that they would love to be around. And if they have resources, they will help you. If not, then there's no need pestering them, because it can actually kind of backfire. Like, what if they talk about you later on? Like, hey, there was this one pesky med student that's always, that was hounding me. Hey, I didn't have anything for him, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I want to say. Like, be aggressive, 100% be aggressive. Don't miss out on chances, but do it with tact.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And this idea of tact and kind of like genuineness, it's a big part of our ethos here at MedAngle, but also in the other episodes as well. Like for example, in couples match, we discussed this idea of being genuine, kind of, I will say one thing to the audience in like all the sessions, that the truth is all we have. So I think when you are, kind of quote unquote hounding people, or you're kind of getting after opportunities, that's fine and well and good. Now you should be doing that, right? But if you're being fake, or if you're pretending, because for example, like there's so many stories of people like pretending to be like, oh, I'm really into American football, right? Like they come from overseas and like, I love American football. I love the Packers, the Bears, I love Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But like the minute they start talking a bit more in detail about the game, they're like, well, actually, I only caught the highlight. Like, so people can tell when you're being genuine, or people can tell when you're not being when you're not being sincere about it, right? People can usually tell. I think it leaves a very bitter or bad aftertaste that this person isn't genuine. Like they're probably not being honest either, right? So there's ways to handle these things. I think, Hamza, that's a really good point to bring up, because oftentimes people will either lose themselves or they'll make stuff up, which is neither honest or genuine, in my opinion. So I think that's a good point to bring up.
And I think like one little thing, like, hey, let's say you don't have any common, like it doesn't come up like right off the gate. You can steer the conversation that way. Like, hey, I read this book that was about this. What are your thoughts about that? Or, maybe I don't like American football, but I like soccer. So
Exactly.
what are your thoughts about that? Find the common ground instead of forcing it.
100%. Yeah, that's really, really well said. Okay, one last thing before we move on to the next segment. I realize we're getting a little bit short on time, but we'll kind of wrap things up in a little bit. I want to talk about really quickly, like a minute from both of you, regarding. So I said that we'd dive deeper into interviews. So like, if you guys could, in like a minute or so, talk a bit more about like what your strategies for navigating interviews successfully were like. So for example, obviously both of you had a really good number of interviews. Congratulations for that. But when you guys are going through those, 5, 10 interviews, what were your like golden nuggets of wisdom for navigating, this particular specialty? So when it comes to radiology or rad onc, what was like the unique strategy you guys had for this particular specialty when it comes to when it came to interviews in particular? So let's talk Hamza first.
Yeah. So overall, I would, before match or before the interview day, or a couple of days ago, I would review my notes about the program. What are the strengths? What are the your supposed weaknesses, or like what could be your misfits over there, right? And how can you not fit over there? A couple of questions. Every interview is going to say, okay, what questions do you have for me? You don't want to be saying a question and then while they're answering, thinking about the next question. Also always have a couple of questions prepared. When it comes to the interview, make sure, like in radiology, this is a big thing this year. They had one standardized question. They would ask like, okay, why radiology, or why our program, right? After that, they would kind of settle down. They would ask you about like, okay, know your research, right? Like I'm talking about like your own what you did. They would ask like, okay, you did this research. What was that about? So just have a big picture idea. Like, hey, I did this AI. Big picture idea was like, okay, we're gonna do this, right? And this is, so make sure that you know your own stuff. And then after, after they run out of questions, they ask you what questions you have. You say a couple of things, and then there's kind of like an awkward silence for like a minute or two. So you want to take that opportunity to talk about, I don't know, like there was a guy, he was Australian, he was a resident, he was taking my interview. I was like, okay, hey, and then we just had like the cricket finals. I was like, hey, did you catch that? He was, yeah, it was amazing. I saw Glenn Maxwell's innings or whatever. Just bridge it, bridge it. There was a guy who was the fellow or chief of moonlighting. So in radiology, a lot of moonlighting is just sitting waiting for contrast reactions. So he was like, oh, I play video games. And I was like, oh, okay, did you play Baldur's Gate 3? And he played Baldur's Gate 3. So be human. Be human. They love humans. Humans love humans.
Absolutely. I think this was brought up earlier as well, is that people often forget this is also a job interview as well. And oftentimes when you're working in an organization, you're working at a startup or a corporation, whatever it is, people like working with people that they can relate to and they can have a decent time with at the very minimum, right? Like if you're a jerk or if you're a liar, if you're insincere, people aren't really going to want to spend time with you. And especially in kind of radiology, I can imagine that like you're sitting together for so long and like you're working together. If you're not a pleasant person or if you have these negative traits, then I mean, your interview probably won't go well and you probably won't get the position in the first place, right? So I think that's a really good point brought up. Dr. Shah, like a minute or two from you as well regarding this.
Yeah, so I agree with the Hamza. A human. Try to have some humor, not too much humor, not too less humor. Just be an open person, be smile and know something about the specialty which you want to pursue. For me, they were asking why Redonk, why you like they had a lot of questions that you started researching in Hemonk, why you changed to Redonk, why you're thinking that you will be a good fit for Redonk, and all those questions. If you know a little bit about the specialty, you can convince them. I did some of my research, met the resident. I'm here in the research, so I'm attending the morning conferences. So you get a little bit idea of the department of the specialty. So I was giving the financial cost of the like how cost effective this specialty is compared to other specialties where we are providing care. So, and the second thing is you should touch on like how can we make the healthcare system or this specialty accessible globally. I was giving them an example of like from my country, Pakistan, or my city, Quetta. I'm from Quetta. Came from a public school, and then to this point, so I was giving them my example that we have struggled this thing. We don't have a radiation oncologist in Quetta. We have barely like a handful of radiation oncologists in Pakistan. If we have, they can't afford proton therapy, or because proton therapy or they cannot afford those nuclear medicine stuff like lutetium and all those things, which are like one cycle of treatment is $45,000 to $50,000, and every patient should have at least 4 or 5 cycles for that, right? So I was giving them, if you have a little bit of understanding of the specialty, you tell them, yeah, these are my goals, these are where I'm going to work on in this like the next 5 to 10 years. I want to make it accessible. I want to make them cost effective, and I want to have like my specialty should have impact on the patient's the patient health or the patient disease. I would also, with the effect, I would also be minimizing the side effects compared to other expensive drugs, which they have a lot of side effects. I want my specialty to be cost effective and very and have less side effect. So these are the small things that I was touching on the interviews, and the rest is be human. If you have, I did a lot of hobbies to my application. We had like I love cooking, I love hiking, I love volunteer work. I did also. They were asking, all of them were asking what I cook, what's my favorite dish, and they were literally searching on Google what's that dish is, and they were asking how you cook that dish, how good, which one is how much time does it take? Like, oh, we were all talking about this. If you want to go for hiking, where do you go? And all this, like, so I love those things, and it was not. I never consider it as an interview. I consider it as a discussion. As like the way we are talking right now, it's not an interview. And all my interviews were the same. They were from a very prestigious program. Radiation oncology, like any program has a radiation oncology residency, that's not a community program. That's a university-based program. So that was, I never felt that it was interview. It was always a discussion where the person want to know you, you want to know them. That's all you have to be. Don't even think that, yeah, it is an interview. Consider, yeah, it is a discussion. We want to know each other. We want to know the program. And then leave the rest on Allah.
That's a good point. I think it's funny. Like in my mind, I had this image of like interviewers, like they're like interviewing, but they're like searching, like how does Dr. Shah make fettuccine Alfredo? How does he make his steak? And I think it's a funny thing because it just shows how human this process is, right? It is an interview, it is a job interview, but I think if you frame it in a way that's it's more of a conversation or discussion, obviously you need to take it professionally, very seriously, no doubt, right? But if you can kind of like help yourself relax or kind of trick your mind thinking like, hey, this is just a chat that we're having, and hopefully it's a good chat regarding my future prospects. I think that would bring a lot of applicants to ease when it comes to that process. So now I'm gonna turn over to Shamas for our next segment. I think that's our last segment. So Shamas, over to you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Shah and Dr. Ibad. It was a really, really amazing takeaways for the match season and how to go about it. Now, coming into the final section, so for a lot of our audience, they might be watching this and they're going to be medical students or perhaps even during their house job year. They might look at this and go, okay, well, I'm interested in radiology or I'm interested in radio onco. I'm not really sure if the field is for me. I'm not sure what the scope is for the field. And so something that obviously plays a really significant role in choosing a specialty is really the scope of the specialty and also future pathways. So Dr. Ibad, if you can, could you please elaborate on what the fellowship options are for radiology and also what different career paths one could take?
Yeah, so mostly there are two different career paths. One is in academia and one is in private practice or community medicine. So in private practice, you're doing a lot more reads. In academic, you're also doing a lot of research. You might have postdocs of your own someday. You're writing grants, and you get dedicated time for that. In terms of what areas you can specialize in, it's actually divided by anatomy, not the type of modality. So it's going to be like body imaging, which is mostly like abdominal and pelvis. There's neuroimaging. There's uh, technically interventional radiology can be a separate residency, but you can also do a fellowship in interventional radiology, and that's like mostly like placing stents, helping people with varicose veins, things like that. And the other thing that you need to realize is there's a lot of specialties that actually have interventional aspects to them. So for example, I love MSK. MSK, you can do like biopsies, you can do some injections, you can. I shadowed at HSS, and they did a lot of sports. A lot of people coming in with sports injuries and things like that. So they can have spinal injections, anesthesia, things like that. So there's MSK. There's also, I think breast is also a very it could be procedure heavy. If you're going to neuro, you can also subspecialize into neurointervention. So those are like the big ones. I'm sorry if I'm missing out any one of them. But those are like the big ones that I see a lot of people going to. I will say there's a lot of people who are scared that artificial intelligence might make these things obsolete. So the thing is, first of all, you're going to do a lot of procedures to make sure that, if you're really scared of that, do a procedure field. The other thing is I'll tell you something from RSNA, which is like the Radiological Society of North America, or there are people who are actually begging people to come up with some sort of AIs, because the AIs that are currently used commercially aren't that good, and the ones that you are scanned, the amount of scans that have been coming out have almost like double tripled. So there's a lot of load, and you're going to be doing a lot of reading if you're going to be a radiologist.
Well, actually, since we're on this topic, moving a little bit off course, what's your opinion on the notion that AI is going to be taking the jobs of radiologists?
I am not too scared, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. Currently, there's nothing I can do about it. All remaps, so I'm just gonna take it in stride. A lot of people say like it's not that AI is gonna replace radiologists. AI is just gonna replace radiologists who don't know how to use AI, and that's basically like making sure that like if something is flagged up, like there's a lot of programs that, for example, they could tell you if somebody has a pulmonary embolism, so you're still going to look at it and double check. A lot of places don't really have confidence in the AI. But I don't know if you guys have looked at Sora, which is making like there's like a lot of different things. Like AI is making leaps and bounds. 4 or 5 years ago, nobody was talking about ChatGPT. Now everybody's using it. So keep an eye out. I mean, I'm also not an AI expert, so that's just my way.
Yeah, I think there tends to be a lot of myths and fear mongering when it comes to AI, but I think for the most part, it's going to be augmenting doctors, not replacing them.
I want to add
And
one thing here
so,
as well, because MedAngle
go
is
ahead.
a tech company, so I want to add my opinion here really quickly as well. I'm not in obviously radiology or radonc, but as somebody who deals with technology and AI on like a weekly basis, I think just for the audience who's because I know like when it comes to radiology, this like people see things on Twitter or X now, or they see things on social media, it's like, oh, radiology is gonna be replaced. I think people are forgetting that in a lot of countries, especially the American healthcare system, the radiation at the lobby is very strong in the sense that it's one of the strongest, if not the strongest groups when it comes to advocating for doctors and their rights and their kind of their futures, right? So obviously, when you have a healthcare system, you want to make sure that you have confidence in the healthcare system. Now, to imagine that a system or a hospital or a chain of hospitals just simply replacing or removing, radiologists altogether, that's really not going to happen because you have to remember that the system is interlinked with a lot of other arms or branches, right? So insurance, like legal enforcement, like contract stuff like that. So I think when it comes to the audience who's kind of worried about this, I think, yes, it is a valid fear to have based on the technology itself, because the corpus of data and these gigantic, data sets that we have for imaging, right? And again, like for example, when it comes to X-rays, like it is now feasible to store 1 billion X-rays or 100 million X-rays and train a technology to kind of go through it with a relatively high level of accuracy, right? You can get to very high level nines of accuracy. But at the end of the day, when it comes to patients and what they want, they don't like, from my experience and like from my clinical experience as well, patients still want that human touch. Like that is what makes our profession as doctors so fulfilling and so rewarding. Because at the end of the day, it's like you're talking to a chatbot or, like, hi, I'm X robot, whatever. At the end of the day, they want to know that there's somebody there for them who is competent to read that, interpret that, or take the necessary clinical steps to make sure that they, trend in the right direction for treatment or whatever it might be. So is it a valid fear? Sure. I think that is true. Technology is pretty magical and pretty astounding in our rate. Moore's law, first for CPUs, not for GPUs. It's remarkable, especially this is highly relevant to radiology. But for students who are wondering about this, I don't think that this will have a gigantic impact on the short term, but long term, of course. I mean, first we had horses, now we have cars, and now we have electric cars, right? So just something to keep in mind and just be smart about your future career prospects. That's my 2 cents because MedAngle is a tech startup and we work with this stuff. So that's my thought process. Dr. Shah, do you want to add anything about this as well?
Yeah, so I would be we are using AI for our treatments most of the time, not most of it, almost every time. So the way we are using AI is like, suppose a patient has lung cancer, right? We have signed Mayo signed a deal with the Google. Then every organization has their own like company they're using and all that stuff. So we give that tumor and everything to the AI stuff, and they tell us which treatment is best for this patient and which areas to treat, how much to treat, how much we should go, because you cannot give radiations to the normal tissues, right? It will cause harm. So I would not, of course it is people should worry, but it can aid, it can help you a lot. It can aid, might be that's like it will minimize your workload. And the second thing, if you just go and search on Reddit that hey, AI is taking radiation oncology field, but I believe that it's helping. And the second thing is, if you are so worried in life, then you should not think outside the family medicine or the psychiatry. You will be earning 200,000 a year. Good. If you want to start your starting salary to start from 400 or 5 or half a million a year, then these are the risks. Otherwise, go apply to family medicine and be happy earning 200,000 a year, or be hospitalist. There is always risk with it. And if I lose my job after 20 years, I will not be disappointed. I'll be in a good position. And then the second thing is, don't limit your resources or your approach to just one country. If you're a really talented physician, you have the whole world with you. You have the whole world. If tomorrow after my residency I didn't if I can't find position here in the US, I have the whole Middle East, I have Europe, I have Canada. I can go back to Pakistan. I will be a valuable resource to the society. So don't just look to a specialty that, yeah, I want to earn money. Of course, everyone want to earn. I love money. Everyone want to have a good lifestyle. Everyone to have. That's why we are here. Like, you deserve it. You worked for it. You deserve it. But it's not like, also think that through this specialty, will you have impact on the society? If you have impact on the society, I never consider that you will ever lose your job. You will always have more of options. You will be selecting for the best option.
Absolutely. Two quick takeaway points to the audience. I think one, what Hamza mentioned, because we are on the topic of AI and radiology, right? But I think what Hamza mentioned is good career advice as well, is that a lot of people, not just in radiology, it's like, for example, we look at like cardiology or, pulmonology, is that if you want to be more safe from the AIification of the world, which is going to happen, software is going to eat the world, then going into stuff that's more procedural is going to give you a longer buffer period, a longer time horizon to kind of secure your future and your future career prospects, right? Because at this current state, I personally don't believe that our technology it gets so advanced so quickly that it's going to be doing procedures for us as well. Diagnostics and reads and stuff like that, perhaps. I mean, obviously, we'll see how that plays out in the next 5-10 years. But what Hamza said regarding like being more procedure heavy, going interventional, stent placement, stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's definitely going to increase that time horizon for you to, maximize your retirement or your future career prospects as well. And again, what Dr. Shah said here about, contributions and impact in different geographies of the world. I mean, this is golden advice from both Hamza and Dr. Shah here. So really good stuff on that. Shamas, I think there's one more question that we have left before we kind of conclude the session. And we got sidetracked by AI, but cool.
Yeah,
that was great. That was a
so
great talk, by the way. So appreciate that.
thank you. And again, thank you all for really calming our nerves as future applicants. Really needed it, and I think the audience did too. So just before we close off, what is one piece of advice that you would like to tell all radiology or radio-onco aspirants? So Dr. Shah, we'll go ahead and start with you first.
Yeah, I would go with simply be fearless. Always have a plan B. If plan A is not working, you should have plan B, and do something that you love. Don't listen, or don't just look to the stats, which are like most of the time not accurate. Don't limit your approach or your future career to just like few specialties. If you like doing something, yeah, no matter, it is not easy. It is not easy like going unmatched for a year or 2 years, but think that where do you want to see yourself in 20 years? Where do you want to see yourself in 30 years? What impact you want to have through your specialty? That's what matters. If you have a clear vision of it, yeah, if you really like, if you love, I'm not saying anything about like other specialties. Some people love family medicine, some people love pediatrics, some people love neurology. But if you're thinking of, yeah, you love advanced special, you love cardiology, or you love neurosurgery, or you love any other specialty. I have seen people match in neurosurgery as an IMG. Yeah, it is not in urology. People match in urology as in IMGs. Yeah, it is not easy. They do 2 or 3 years of research. They go 2 or 3 years unmatched, but still they're matching in that specialty. And once you matched, then your life is set. You will be, at least after 20 years, you will say, you will be proud of yourself that, yeah, I did not give up. I came like, simple advice. I came from a public school in from Quetta, where there was like, I wasn't having a bag, right? After 10th class, I was just going to school just for a habit. It was just habit. Oh, it's morning, go to school and come back in the noon, and that's all. Like, but once you have a clear vision that now you want to do it, don't consider anything that, yeah, these will be the problems. And the second, as a for me, I'm not, everyone has different religion and everything. For me, I trust Allah. I have a clear vision. Allah is saying in the Quran that if you decide doing something, go for it. I'm with you. Don't overthink, don't do those things. Of course, this is not the exact translation, but what Allah mean by this is, don't overthink, trust in me. So if I can make it to this point from a public school, anyone can make it. And do something that you love, do something that you're proud of, that after 30 years.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. And Dr. Ibad, if there's anything you would like to say to that as well.
I just would like to say, carrying on from that, like, the first thing that came into my mind when you asked that question was, don't panic. There are going to be a lot of situations that are going to give you panic, anxiety. It's okay to feel those feelings, because there's a reason why you feel those feelings. But if you panic too long, if you're anxious for too long, it doesn't give you the chance to sit back and say, okay, what are my options? right? If you flub the question during the interview, it's done. There's no just go do it. The only action you can take is, what was that question? Well, how could I answer it differently? Just move on. There's no reason to give yourself undue anxiety.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Ibad. And just to elaborate on that point a little bit, obviously for everyone watching, always do what you love. And just one more point is we all tend to look at, the averages like, oh, this is the average step score, or this is, the average, cohort of people who match. But at the end of the day, and this is actually someone I learned from one of my mentors here at MedAngle was we're not averages, we're outliers. And that's how we should think of ourselves. So that's something that really stuck with me. If you truly love something, if you're truly passionate about something, then you're not an average, you're an outlier, and go chase that thing. So
Absolutely.
Dr. Azib, if there's anything you'd like to add.
Yeah, I think this has been a really great session. So I'm really grateful to both Dr. Hamza Abad and Dr. Syed Naseem Shah. I mean, like, just amazing stories. Congratulations once again. I can't say enough to both of you. Really happy for your success, genuinely. And I can't wait to see how far what contributions you guys make to the field. And I'll be looking forward to following your stories and seeing where you guys take your lives as well. And I think I have a very good feeling it's going to go very far. For that being said, thank you so much to both of you for giving us your time, and for the audience, and giving your time to the audience as well. I think that, creating like our ethos here at MedAngle, our vision that, Dr. Shah talked about vision, our vision here has always been about, how do we leverage technology to help people across the entire country and these regions of the world which MedAngle operates, but not just these regions, but globally, right? So if you're interested in radiology, then this particular session, I think, has been very valuable to give you, at the very minimum, a really high level overview of what you can expect and kind of how to go about it. Obviously, to give motivation, inspiration as well, that, oh, just because there's 80 programs or 120 programs, that doesn't mean that or you're an IMG or you're visa requiring, it doesn't mean you can't get it, right? It's not impossible, right? And, to piggyback off what, Shamash just said, like, it's not about averages. It's about, like, you have the passion, you have the vision, you can make it happen, right? It's up to you. So I think on that note, we will,
Can
actually,
I
yeah,
add
go ahead, yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So my program, so radiation oncology, most of the program only taking 1 or 2 resident. If the program is very prestigious, like Mayo, they're taking 3, or like those like the John Hopkins, or they must be taking maximum 5, right? So I'm the only one resident in my program, and I'm the only IMGs I think they have ever taken.
Wow.
It doesn't mean it's not possible. Everything is possible.
That is, I got chills hearing that. And, here's to you, Shah, and obviously to you as well, Dr. Abad, but like, because both of you, like, your journeys and like your accomplishments, they really are like very, and in your case, Shah, it's like you're the first to do in history, but obviously for Abad, for you as well, like it's remarkably rare, right? So, kudos to both of you, and I'm so proud of you guys. And it kind of goes hand in hand with our vision at MedAngle as well. Like, we're the first platform that what we do, we're the first to personalize for the world, right? So, making history, being a trailblazer, being a pioneer, these things are all, it's very, very possible. So for the audience watching, if you feel that, radiology was out of your scope, out of your hands, not possible, I think both Dr. Abad and Dr. Shah have proven to you, and I think through their wisdom experience, that, hey, it is possible. Now it's up to you what you want to do about it, right? So to both of you, thank you so much for your time. This is to the audience watching, this has been the MedAngle It's a Match series, and It's a Match series, and this is the specialty series. And in this series, we talked about radiology and radiation oncology. So once again, my kudos and special gratitude to both our doctors here today, Dr. Syed Naseem Shah and Dr. Hamza Ibad, for their time. If you guys need any follow-up questions after the session, you can reach out to MedAngle social media. We'll help you forward those questions to them. If they want to reply, they will, or MedAngle can facilitate that. And once again, thank you so much for everybody tuning in. We hope you guys enjoy this and you learned a thing or two from these two great doctors and their journeys. And yeah, stay tuned for more specialty series. MedAngle will be covering as much as possible to bring you maximum wisdom from such esteemed people who have accomplished so much. So congratulations once again, and thanks to the audience. And that is a wrap.